So we need to talk about this Cara Delevingne and Margot Robbie situation because, as you guys know, Cara has been going through it. So going and brutally attacking a photographer with your best friend isn't a good look. So it looks like Cara is bringing her friend Margot down with her because these two are being blamed for the brutal attack. So these two decided to take a trip to Argentina together, which it does seem like they are best friends. I mean, back in August, they were spotted in Spain together celebrating Cara's birthday, and then when Cara was going through her public breakdown back in September, Margot came to her home and was photographed outside her home crying. So these two have a close connection. And now they're even closer because Margot and Cara were at a center of a fight that saw their two filmmaker friends arrested for allegedly assaulting a paparazzi and leaving him with a broken arm. So let's go ahead and break down this situation because they were in Argentina. I don't exactly know why, but they were dining at a restaurant called Patagonia Sur. It was about 3 a.m. on Sunday, which I don't understand why they're out until 3 a.m. Nothing good happens after 1 a.m. Trust me. But they had an Uber outside and this photographer named Pedro decided to approach them. When this paparazzi Pedro approached them, supposedly he had rushed up to them and started taking photos of them aggressively, which startled their entire friend group. I'm sure the paparazzi are so annoying, but at the end of the day, they're still people and they do deserve respect because if you do something illegal, you will get in trouble. Cara and Margot were not alone. They were joined by two friends, one named Josie and another named Jack. And supposedly these two men decided to step in when this paparazzi Pedro came forth. So these ladies leave the restaurant, their Uber is waiting for them, and this paparazzi comes up to them, supposedly acting aggressive. They were entering their Uber when the paparazzi rushed them, and supposedly this encounter freaked out the driver who ended up taking off with Margot halfway out the car. So Cara was in the vehicle, Margot was getting in, and the driver just sped away. I guess Margot was a little bit more out of the vehicle than in because she decided to jump out of it as it was moving to avoid being injured. And I guess their two friends, Josie and Jack, became upset when they saw this paparazzi continued to take photos of Margot as she was on the ground after jumping out of a moving Uber. These two guys decided to chase down the paparazzi and slam him to the concrete before attempting to smash their camera. The impact of the fall supposedly shattered the photographer's right arm, and he has a bunch of cuts on his body. When news started to break, there was a competition between Cara and Margot's teams and this photographer to push out a certain narrative, and supposedly Josie and Jack had claimed that they never got physical with this photographer and he actually fell on the ground by himself. But Pedro is calling BS because he was sent to the hospital with a neck brace on and on a stretcher. He decided to release some photos to the public, but ultimately he's trying to file a lawsuit against these two filmmakers, Josie and Jack. Some of the photos that Pedro has released are scary. I mean, there's this one where he's laying down and looking straight up at the ceiling, looking dazed, and I guess his entire right arm has been broken. He was quoted saying, "I suffered a brutal aggression. My life was saved by a miracle. I don't know what would have happened if I fell headfirst onto the ground with the speed that those people chased after me." He also claims that he doesn't know if his right arm will ever work again. Quote, "I have a cast on my right arm. My arm is very compromised, and I don't know if I'm going to lose it," which that sounds really scary. I mean, losing your whole arm after this? But even though Pedro was seriously hurt, he was able to keep the photos that he supposedly took in these moments, which I haven't been able to find on social media. So I don't know if he's holding on to these for a potential lawsuit or what. But we are in the year 2022 and there are surveillance cameras everywhere. So there has been footage leaked of this altercation. It's really difficult to see what exactly is going on here, but we're going to watch it together and talk through it. So the footage isn't very clear, and of course we don't have any sound, but you can see here's a street and there's an arrow pointing towards the group of people. There's also a car in the middle of the road, and this is supposedly the Uber, I guess, that Cara and Margot were taking. So I don't know exactly what's going on here, because you see the car start moving away and someone walking in the opposite direction. So I'm not entirely sure. Is that Margot running away? Is that the photographer Pedro? I almost think that this is a street like past where the restaurant's at, and we can see him being chased off by these two men who he ultimately wants to sue, I guess, for breaking his arm. And I mean, I guess these are some good friends for defending Margot and Cara, but this seems a little bit too far. The paparazzi Pedro claims that Cara, Margot, and their friends cowardly ran off and left him lying on the ground when he was in pain. I mean, he thinks that he could have lost his life in that moment, but looking at the surveillance footage, it's not like they continued to attack him, but again, this is just a small portion of what we saw. And it looks like our friends Jack and Josie were actually charged for this incident and detained in Argentina. We don't know exactly why they are being held. They have not been booked on any specific charges yet, but I mean, something serious must have happened if the Argentina police, they, are hearing this guy out and going ahead and arresting these two men for assaulting him. But it does seem like this is a big career moment for Pedro, because he's definitely making the most out of it. He is 61 years old, so that's probably how he was able to get injured so easily, but he works for a news outlet called TN, and he was supposedly hired by a magazine to track down Cara and Margot. The magazine is called Info Bay, which interesting name, but anyways, he was hired to capture photos of them, and ultimately he did. And he also runs a photo agency, so he knows how to work the media and to release information to work in his favor. Nonetheless, he should have never been attacked in the first place for taking pictures of them, but I could see why news outlets are trying to get pictures of Cara because of everything she's been going through recently. But the Sun was able to reach Pedro and ask for an exclusive interview where he explains what happened to him. I want to play this for you guys. It does have captions in English, so you can understand what he's saying.
Peter, ¿cómo estás? Bueno, estuviste cubriendo a Cara anoche, la modelo, en el barrio de La Boca, y mirá cómo terminaste, Peter.
Sí, realmente fue un ataque brutal y cobarde de la seguridad, de los patubicas que estaban con ella, y realmente fue muy cobarde lo que hicieron. Me querían secuestrar y tomar la cámara para secuestrarme las imágenes. De hecho, perdí un pack de memorias ahí, empecé a correr y ellos me querían pegar, me querían amasijar. Y en esa carrera ellos de atrás cobardemente me pegaron una patada y una piña y me hicieron volar la cámara. Y yo me caí de 30, 40 kilómetros por hora, venía corriendo. Y ahí fue todo lo que pasó. Me podría haber matado, se caía con la cabeza, no la contaba realmente. Y bueno, caí con todo el brazo, ¿no? Que perdí muchísima sangre.
Tenés fractura expuesta, ¿no? El hueso afuera tenía.
Fractura expuesta con el hueso afuera. Perdí muchísima sangre, quedé inconsciente en el piso por varios minutos. Pudo venir la policía muy rápido, el SAN a asistirme.
¿Y la modelo se acercó a ayudarte, a asistirte o se escaparon?
No, ellos se salieron corriendo cobardemente después de que me derribaron al piso. Salieron corriendo y me dejaron tirado en el piso, ¿no? Me hubiese muerto y a ellos no me importaba nada.
Bueno, y estás con suero, ¿no? ¿Estás ahora con suero?
Yo estoy con suero, con antibiótico, estoy con calmantes.
Bueno, y ojalá que no pase más esto, Peter, porque ya los patubicos últimamente están así de agresivos. Ya nos pasó a nosotros con Justin Bieber y bueno, ojalá que te recuperes pronto, Peter, y bueno.
Esperemos que no pueda perder la movilidad del brazo, Y bueno, me van a operar. Ya me dijo el médico que me va a operar y me van a poner unos clavos. Y voy a estar por mucho tiempo en postoperatorio, recuperación. No sé por cuánto tiempo. Y te agradezco mucho decente acá y es una de las personas que primero que llegó. Gracias por tu solidaridad y estar presente siempre en un momento difícil.
Gracias, Peter.
So that was a lot. And if you see him refer to these men as security, that's because he believed that they were, because of how they behaved. But they're just some filmmaker friends. So now they've got themselves in a huge mess. Of course, all of the news outlets have been reaching out to Cara and Margot's teams, but nobody has anything else to say. And it seems like they just got out of Argentina, while their two friends are stuck there because of what they did. The reason why I wanted to talk about this story was for a couple of reasons. One, because Cara's been going through it, and a lot of people want to understand what's happening here. And I think like this incident in Argentina is kind of a red flag, because I thought that she was maybe getting help. But if she's out here till 3 a.m. on a Saturday night, Sunday morning, and getting into fights like this, it just seems like she's got some bad people around her. And then secondly, I mean, there are so many incidents where paparazzis were involved in physical altercations with people who are celebrities or their teams, and I just think it's unacceptable. I mean, I don't know what it's like to be followed around by people. I'm sure it's frustrating. I mean, you see Justin Bieber argue with them all the time, but at the end of the day, like, this situation's far worse than them just snapping a couple of pictures of these girls, down in Argentina. But then that again makes me question, like, why are they trying so hard to not be seen? Were they really drunk or on drugs? Who knows? But I'm worried about Cara, and I feel like she's got some bad people around her. Maybe that includes Margot Robbie. But I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you in a new video soon. Bye, guys.